The warning about the most dangerous breakfast combination. For decades, breakfast has been seen as the most important moment of the day. Milk, a symbol of strength and vitality, has always been on Brazilian tables. The orange, in turn, was the touch of health, rich in vitamin C, full of energy and color. But what almost no one knows is that when these two foods meet, something happens inside the body that can become dangerous, especially after the age of 60. I remember well a patient, a simple, retired man who drank the same combination every day, a glass of milk and a natural orange juice freshly squeezed. He had been doing this for over 30 years, believing he was taking care of his health. But what he didn't imagine was that, inside his body, this mixture was creating the perfect scenario for a silent problem: blood thickening and heart overload. It may seem like an exaggeration, but it's not. The human body has a natural order for digesting and absorbing nutrients, and what you combine on the plate can define whether the blood will flow like a calm river or like a dense, slow, and inflamed liquid. The truth is that the mixture between milk and orange, so common at breakfast, triggers a chemical reaction that confuses the digestive system and directly interferes with circulation. Milk, especially whole milk, contains casein and calcium, proteins and minerals that require a neutral or slightly alkaline environment to be digested. Orange, on the other hand, is highly acidic, full of citric and ascorbic acid. When the two meet on an empty stomach, the acidity of the fruit causes the milk proteins to coagulate prematurely. It's as if the milk curdles inside the body. And this coagulation generates a heavy food bolus, difficult to break down, which remains longer in the stomach and disrupts the entire digestive process. In the first minutes after this mixture, the stomach increases acid production to try to dissolve the coagulated casein. This causes reflux, fermentation, and a disordered release of digestive hormones. Meanwhile, the liver is called to intervene. It produces more bile, the pancreas releases extra enzymes, and the kidneys try to balance the excess acidity in the blood. All this to correct something that should never have happened: the wrong mixture at the wrong time. In a young organism, this extra effort goes unnoticed, but in those over 60, the body does not have the same metabolic speed. The liver works more slowly, the blood circulates with less fluidity, and the vessels no longer have the same elasticity. Under these conditions, what was just indigestion turns into something more serious: increased blood viscosity. The blood becomes thicker, the heart needs to pump harder, and blood pressure rises silently. Many of the symptoms that the elderly report, such as tiredness after breakfast, a feeling of heat in the face, slight swelling in the legs, or early drowsiness, do not come from age. They come from difficult digestion and the chemical reaction between milk and fruit acidity. And the most curious thing, this effect happens even when the combination seems light. Even a simple glass of orange juice taken right after milk can be enough to cause the same imbalance. What kills is not the exaggeration, it's the habit. A small habit, repeated every day, that slowly alters the body's balance. And that is precisely what makes this combination dangerous. It seems healthy. No one suspects that the problem is at breakfast. But inside the body, the chemical reactions are happening, and the blood, day after day, becomes denser, heavier, more difficult to circulate. In the next few minutes, I will show you why this mixture directly affects the heart and arteries, and how it interferes with the way the body absorbs vitamins and minerals. You will understand, step by step, what happens inside the blood after this combination, and why the risk increases so much after the age of 60. But first, I want to know one thing. Comment here your age and the city from where you are watching me. It is important for me to know how many people still maintain this custom, because the more people know about this, the more hearts we will be able to protect. What seems like just a juice and a glass of milk will surprise you. Modern science has shown that the danger of the morning may be hidden precisely in what you have always believed to be healthy. What happens in the body when mixing milk and citrus fruits? The mixture between milk and a citrus fruit like orange may seem innocent, but inside the body it turns into a complex sequence of chemical and physiological reactions that most people are unaware of. To understand this, it is necessary to observe what occurs in the first minutes after consumption, because the body reacts in a very specific way when combining foods of opposite natures. Milk, by itself, is a slow-digesting food. Rich in proteins, casein and albumin, saturated fat, and calcium, it requires a neutral environment to be properly broken down by digestive enzymes. Orange is the opposite, a fast-digesting and highly acidic food, full of citric acid, ascorbic acid, and flavonoids. When both reach the stomach at the same time, there is a chemical conflict, a true pH shock. Under normal conditions, the stomach maintains its acid around pH 2 to digest proteins and fats. But when a citrus fruit arrives along with milk, the fruit's acid temporarily raises the local acidity and causes premature coagulation of casein. In simple language, the milk curdles inside the stomach. These small lumps join the fruit fibers, forming a heavy and irregular food bolus, which the stomach tries to dissolve by further increasing the secretion of hydrochloric acid. The result is slow digestion, fermentation, and reflux, in addition to a cascade of inflammatory reactions that spread throughout the body. This process is even more dangerous in people over 60 years old. Over time, the body produces fewer digestive enzymes, and the metabolism slows down. This means that the food remains longer in the stomach, which increases the risk of reflux, gas, heartburn, and malabsorption of nutrients. But the biggest problem is not in the digestion itself. It is in what happens to the blood soon after. When the body detects excess acidity in the digestive tract, it tries to compensate by releasing bicarbonate and alkaline minerals from the blood. This process temporarily alters the electrolyte balance, reducing free magnesium, potassium, and calcium. The result is a more viscous, less fluid blood, with a tendency to faster coagulation. In young and healthy people, the body corrects this quickly. But in those with slow circulation, atherosclerosis, or hypertension, this thickening can mean the beginning of a dangerous chain reaction. The liver also comes into play. It tries to metabolize the residues of this confused digestion, partially coagulated proteins, poorly emulsified fat, and excess organic acids. This extra effort releases oxidizing substances and requires more oxygen from the blood. Meanwhile, the heart is forced to work harder to maintain the flow. That's why many elderly people report tiredness or drowsiness after breakfast. The whole body is trying to compensate for the chemical impact of the mixture. What aggravates the problem is the fact that milk contains calcium and orange contains citric acid. This combination forms calcium citrate, an insoluble salt that the body has difficulty eliminating. In small quantities, it does no harm, but over time it can accumulate in the walls of the vessels or in the kidneys, increasing the risk of calcifications and arterial hardening. In other words, it is a slow, silent, and progressive process of blood thickening. In addition, the acid in orange destroys part of the good bacteria in the intestine, while milk feeds the bad ones when it ferments. This microbiological imbalance impairs the absorption of B vitamins, essential for cardiovascular metabolism, and alters the functioning of the intestine, favoring gas, bloating, and chronic low-grade inflammation. Everything starts in the stomach, but the effect spreads throughout the entire body. This is the part that many ignore. The blood reflects what the intestine absorbs. If digestion is bad, the blood carries residues, poorly processed fats, and toxins that the liver cannot neutralize. And the thicker this blood becomes, the more the heart suffers to push it. In those who already have atherosclerosis or mild heart failure, this can be the trigger for a pressure crisis or a sudden circulatory imbalance. That's why so many elderly people say that breakfast weighs or that after milk with fruit, the body becomes weak. It's not an impression. It's biochemistry. The body is responding to a mixture that was not made to exist. In the next few minutes, I will show you the hidden truth that most people ignore about milk and citrus fruits, and why popular culture has transformed an unstable chemical combination into a synonym for health. You will understand where this belief came from and what really happens in the cells, in the blood, and in the arteries when this mixture is repeated every day. The hidden truth, the myth of healthy milk and fruit. The idea that milk and fruit are good together was born from good intentions, but like many ancient beliefs, it relied more on tradition than on science. For much of the 20th century, Advertising and popular culture transformed breakfast into an almost sacred ritual. A glass of milk, a fruit, and sometimes a bread or a biscuit. This combination became the symbol of what was complete, nutritious, and balanced. But what modern science has shown is that not every healthy combination on the plate is healthy inside the body. Milk was, for decades, the main source of calcium and protein for entire families. Citrus fruit, especially orange, was sold as a synonym for immunity and energy, and in fact, each of them has isolated benefits. But the human body does not work with isolated foods. It works with chemical reactions between them. When two elements with opposite natures meet, one acidic and the other alkaline, one fast digesting and the other slow digesting, the result is conflict, not harmony. This is the point that almost no one has learned. The body is a living laboratory. Each meal is a chemical experiment, and the stomach is the container where these reactions happen. Mixing milk with orange is, therefore, like joining two substances that neutralize each other. Milk needs time and calm. Orange acts as an acidic accelerator. What seemed to strengthen the organism ends up, in practice, stealing energy from it. The myth spread because people associated the light flavor of the combination with something healthy. A glass of orange and milk smoothie is refreshing, sweet, pleasant. But in the body, this lightness does not exist. Digestion becomes heavy, the stomach ferments, and the blood loses fluidity. And the worst, as the symptoms are discrete, no one makes the connection between the malaise and breakfast. The person feels tired, slightly bloated, headache, or fluctuating pressure and thinks it's just age. In medicine, we call this chronic physiological microstress, small repeated aggressions that, over time, add up to a great wear and tear. And this mixture between milk and acidic fruits is a classic example. The citric acid in orange, when coagulating the casein in milk, prevents complete digestion of the protein. Part of it ferments, releasing gases and ammonia. Another part enters the bloodstream as incomplete protein fragments, which activates the immune system and increases silent inflammation. And all prolonged inflammation contributes to thickening the blood and stiffening the arteries. What makes everything even more dangerous is the deficiency in absorption that this combination causes. The acid in orange destroys part of the enzymes that the body needs to take advantage of the calcium in milk. Instead of strengthening bones and muscles, this mixture hinders the fixation of calcium and causes accumulation of it in the walls of the vessels, the process we call vascular calcification. It's as if, trying to nourish the body, we were slowly blocking the path where the blood should flow freely. Popular culture never explained this because, in the past, the body was not studied with the level of detail we have today. The older generations believed that if it's natural, it's good. But modern science has learned that even the most natural foods can become aggressive when placed in the wrong context. And for the elderly body, context is everything. A slower digestive system, a less efficient liver, more sensitive kidneys, all this transforms what was tolerable into a real risk factor. I saw patients with perfect exams develop symptoms of poor circulation, tingling in the hands, sudden pressure variations, without understanding why. When we reviewed their habits, there was always the same detail: milk and citrus fruit at the same breakfast. It seemed little, but it was enough to alter the acid-base balance and blood viscosity. The good news is that the body has a short memory for bad habits. Just change the food sequence for a few days, and it starts to respond positively. Digestion improves, the intestine returns to its rhythm, sleep becomes deeper, and the feeling of heaviness disappears. But the first step is to understand the mistake and stop believing in the myth. In the next few minutes, I will show you what really happens inside the blood after this mixture, step by step, from digestion in the stomach to the impact on the veins and arteries. You will see how a simple chemical reaction can alter the fluidity of the blood and force the heart to work harder than it should. Inside the body, how the mixture of milk and orange thickens the blood. Now imagine the scene inside your body. You wake up, prepare breakfast, and drink a glass of milk, followed by an orange juice. Everything seems normal, but inside, the organism begins a silent and precise sequence of chemical reactions. The milk arrives first in the stomach and settles there, awaiting the digestive enzymes that will break down its proteins and fats. But seconds later, the citric acid from the orange arrives, and the internal balance changes completely. The acidity of the orange reacts with the calcium and proteins of the milk. This reaction causes the precipitation of casein, forming small, thick clots, similar to a white curd. The stomach, upon detecting this dense and irregular texture, understands that it needs to increase its production of hydrochloric acid to try to dissolve the mixture. But the more acid it produces, the more the internal environment becomes hostile, irritating the mucosa, reducing blood pH, and forcing the body to neutralize the excess with alkaline minerals. At this moment, the kidneys release bicarbonate, and the blood yields calcium, magnesium, and potassium to try to restore the balance. These minerals, now at reduced levels, make the blood less conductive and more viscous. It loses part of the fluidity that allows it to circulate smoothly through the capillaries. It's as if the river became denser, heavier, and the heart needed to push it harder. This extra effort increases the pressure and wears down the arterial walls, especially in the legs and head, where the flow is more sensitive. Meanwhile, the liver tries to deal with the excess of insoluble compounds. The molecules of calcium citrate, formed by the union of calcium from milk with citric acid from orange, are difficult to eliminate. In small doses, they are harmless. But when this habit is repeated daily, the body accumulates residues that slowly deposit in the arteries, heart valves, and even the kidneys. It is the beginning of the process we call vascular calcification, the same that hardens the arteries and favors the formation of small clots. The blood, now thicker, begins to circulate more slowly. In the smaller vessels, this slowness generates microstagnations, small areas where the flow decreases so much that oxygen does not arrive efficiently. The body reacts by releasing inflammatory substances to try to open the way, and this causes more vasoconstriction. It is a cycle that feeds itself. The more acidic and dense the blood, the more the heart accelerates. The more the heart accelerates, the more the vessels contract, and the more the vessels contract, the more the blood thickens. This process is not felt immediately. It happens in silence, in each repeated morning. But the accumulation is inevitable. With each cup, with each juice, the body ages a little more inside. Not because of time, but because of chemistry. Blood viscosity is one of the most important variables of cardiovascular health, and few talk about it. When the blood becomes thicker, it loses speed, which increases the risk of thrombus formation, small plaques that can block coronary or cerebral arteries. These blockages are the triggers for heart attacks and strokes, especially in the first hours of the morning. And guess at what time most people consume milk with citrus fruit? Right upon waking up, when the body is more dehydrated and the blood naturally more concentrated. In addition, the liver, overloaded, begins to release more triglycerides, and the kidneys, trying to compensate, eliminate more sodium and water. The result is a rebound effect. The blood thickens even more, and the pressure rises. In elderly patients, who often take diuretics, this mechanism becomes even more dangerous, because dehydration intensifies the density of the blood, creating the perfect environment for microclots. Many call this phenomenon morning pressure, but the cause is in what was ingested minutes before. The body tries to do the impossible: digest something coagulated, eliminate insoluble salts, and keep the blood flowing. It is a job that requires energy, and the heart pays the price. Now imagine this cycle repeated for years. The milk with orange, taken because it is healthy, becomes a small daily aggression. The body adapts, until the day when a strange tiredness appears. The circulation begins to fail. The pressure gets out of control, and the doctor, when investigating, discovers what could have been avoided. In the next few minutes, I will show you why this risk is even greater after the age of 60. You will understand how aging alters the way the body deals with acids, proteins, and minerals, and why what was harmless at 30 can become dangerous at 70. It is at this point that many believe they are just aging, when in reality they are suffering the accumulated effects of a combination that the body has never learned to accept. Why the risk increases dramatically after the age of 60. After 60, the body ceases to be the same agile and adaptable laboratory of youth. The chemical processes that previously adjusted quickly now happen slowly. The blood moves more slowly, the liver filters less efficiently, and the kidneys can no longer balance liquids and minerals with the same precision. That's why, from this age on, what was previously just a small digestive discomfort can turn into a real risk factor for the heart and brain. The first reason is the natural drop in the production of digestive enzymes. From the age of 55, the pancreas and stomach reduce the release of substances responsible for breaking down proteins, fats, and acids. When the person mixes milk and orange, these already insufficient enzymes become even less effective. The stomach cannot completely process the coagulated casein, and the food remains there for hours, fermenting. This fermentation increases the release of gases, acid, and inflammatory substances that enter the bloodstream. The result is a more acidic, thicker blood with a higher load of metabolic waste. The second reason is in the aged liver. This organ, which functions as a purification plant, has the function of transforming chemical compounds into harmless substances and eliminating them. But after 60, hepatic blood flow decreases by up to 40%. This means that everything that arrives there, from medications to the byproducts of digestion, remains circulating longer. When there is excess calcium citrate and poorly digested proteins, the liver becomes overloaded and releases inflammatory molecules into the blood that increase viscosity. It is the beginning of what cardiologists call slow blood syndrome, a state in which the heart needs to exert more effort with each beat to keep the body oxygenated. The third factor is the loss of elasticity of blood vessels. With aging, the arteries harden, accumulate microdeposits of calcium and fat, and lose the ability to expand. When the blood thickens, whether due to dehydration, poor digestion, or excess acid, it presses these rigid arteries. The body reacts by raising blood pressure to try to compensate for the difficulty of the flow. That's why so many elderly people wake up with high blood pressure and feel relief only after a few hours. The problem is not only in the heart, it is in what was ingested before it woke up completely. The fourth point is the drop in renal function. The kidneys, responsible for balancing minerals and eliminating excess acid, lose about 1% of their capacity per year after the age of 50. When the body needs to neutralize the citric acid from orange and the fat from milk at the same time, the aged kidney cannot cope. It eliminates more water to expel the acid, and the blood becomes more concentrated. This process leads to mild dehydration, which further aggravates blood viscosity. It is a vicious circle. Thick blood requires more effort from the heart accelerates, the pressure rises, and the kidney loses even more water. The fifth and last factor is the decline in hormonal sensitivity, especially to insulin and cortisol. These hormones help the body regulate metabolism and stress response. With aging, they become less effective, and the body takes longer to stabilize the peaks of glucose and acidity caused by the poor food combination. Every morning that milk and orange meet, the organism faces a microshock that accumulates over time, an invisible but continuous wear and tear. That's why, after 60, the body becomes much less tolerant of certain dietary errors. What was previously just a digestive discomfort turns into chronic inflammation, unstable pressure, and thick circulation. And the heart, tired, starts working double to push the blood that no longer flows easily. This constant effort is what accelerates cardiovascular aging and increases the risk of thrombosis, stroke, and morning heart attack. But what makes everything even more dangerous is the lack of clear symptoms. The body warns subtly, with a slight drowsiness after breakfast, swelling in the feet, perceptible pulsation in the temples, or slight tiredness when walking. These are signs that many ignore, but that indicate that the blood is becoming denser and the heart is overloaded. The silent signs that your blood is getting thick. The human body speaks. It always speaks. Only that over the years, we stop listening. When the blood begins to thicken, it does not scream. It does not cause immediate pain. It only changes the rhythm of the body, the texture of energy, the way the heart pulses. These small changes are the first alerts that something is not right, and almost always, they appear discreetly in the morning hours, right after coffee with milk and orange juice. The first sign is unusual drowsiness after breakfast. You wake up, have your coffee, and instead of feeling awake, you feel the body heavy, the eyes tired, a slight desire to lie down. This is not laziness, it is physiology. The dense and acidic blood circulates more slowly, oxygen takes longer to reach the brain, and the nervous system reduces the rhythm to save energy. It's as if the body tried to protect itself from you, slowing down to avoid collapse. The second sign is lightheadedness or blurred vision after standing up. Many elderly people say, "It seems like the floor rises." This sensation is caused by a momentary drop in cerebral perfusion. The thick blood does not rise as easily to the brain, and the heart needs to pump with extra force. In those who already have unstable pressure or arrhythmia, this effort can cause micro-variations in the flow, small pauses of oxygen that cause this feeling of imbalance. The third sign is tingling in the hands or feet, especially in the morning. This is one of the clearest symptoms of circulatory slowness. The dense blood finds it difficult to cross the smaller vessels, called capillaries, and the result is a slight numbness or a feeling of constant cold in the extremities. This symptom, ignored by many, is one of the first signs of peripheral microcoagulation, the initial stage of chronic poor circulation. Another common sign is the feeling of heat in the face and ears after eating or drinking. This happens because the thick blood increases the pressure and dilates the superficial vessels of the skin, like an escape valve. It is the body trying to balance the internal flow by redirecting part of the heat outwards. But this same mechanism overloads the heart and makes it work faster, which, over time, translates into constant physical tiredness. The fifth sign is light palpitation after breakfast. Even at rest, the heart seems to accelerate, as if something were wrong, but without pain. This is the result of the adrenergic response that occurs when the thick blood forces the heart to compensate for the slowness of circulation. It accelerates to overcome the resistance, which increases oxygen consumption and creates a cycle of cardiac exhaustion. And there are even more subtle signs. Pressure that fluctuates for no apparent reason, colder skin on the legs, swelling in the ankles at the end of the day, difficulty sleeping deeply, tiredness in the morning even after sleep. All these are ways for the body to warn that the blood is not flowing with the lightness it should. What few know is that thick blood alters not only the circulation, but also the brain. When the flow is slow, oxygen takes longer to reach the neurons. The mind becomes less agile, recent memory fails, and concentration decreases. Many elderly people believe they are aging their heads, when in reality they are just with blood too dense to feed the brain at the necessary speed. In laboratory tests, this appears indirectly. Elevated hematocrit, increased plasma viscosity, slightly high cholesterol, reactive platelets. But the body always warns before the numbers change. Shortness of breath, the body that takes time to warm up, paler or purplish skin on the fingertips. All these are signs of a heart that struggles against a fluid that has lost its fluidity. And most importantly, these symptoms are not normal for age. They are the reflection of a biochemical imbalance that can be corrected. The blood becomes thick because it is trying to protect itself. It is the body's natural defense against excess acid, poor hydration, and incomplete digestion. But the same body that creates the problem is capable of solving it, as long as you give it the correct conditions. In the next few minutes, I will show you exactly how to reverse this process, how to restore lightness to circulation, oxygenation to the brain, and tranquility to the heart. And the best, without abandoning breakfast, without giving up the foods you like, just changing the way they meet inside you. Because the secret is not in eliminating, but in reordering. And when the body is treated with this order, it returns to respond with gratitude, energy, and life. How to naturally reverse thick blood and relieve the heart. Thick blood is not a destiny, it is a state. And like every state, it can change. The human body was designed for balance, and when we give it the correct conditions, it knows how to heal itself. Reversing dense blood, restoring fluidity, and relieving the heart does not depend on miracles or expensive remedies. It depends on routine, awareness, and consistency. The first step is to hydrate before feeding. Dehydration is the #1 trigger for thick blood. During the night, we lose fluids through breathing and urine. When we wake up, the blood is more concentrated and the natural density increases. Therefore, the body needs water before any food. Drinking 300 to 400 milliliters of water right upon waking up preferably at room temperature or warm, reactivates the liver, stimulates the kidneys, and dilutes the blood plasma. This simple attitude reduces the risk of thickening by up to 30% in the first hours of the day. The second step is to reorder breakfast. Never start with milk and citrus fruits. Start with something neutral and light. Oatmeal, whole wheat bread, nuts, chia, or flax seeds. These foods prepare the stomach and create a protective layer that prevents aggressive acidic reactions. After 15 to 20 minutes, if you want, you can consume the milk or juice, but never together. This simple separation of times completely changes the chemical impact of digestion. It's like teaching the body to dance to the right rhythm, one step at a time. The third step is to increase the intake of foods that naturally thin the blood. Some plant compounds have the ability to improve blood fluidity, reduce platelet aggregation, and balance internal pH. Among them are extra virgin olive oil, a source of polyphenols that reduce vascular inflammation. Fish rich in omega-3, such as sardines and salmon, which increase the flexibility of blood cells. Raw garlic and onion in small quantities, which contain allicin and quercetin, substances that prevent the formation of clots. Ginger and turmeric, which improve microcirculation and reduce the stiffness of the arteries. Warm water with lemon throughout the day, which helps the liver eliminate acidic waste without interfering with morning digestion. The fourth step is to stimulate body movement. The blood is made to move, and the lack of movement makes it heavy. Walking every day, even for 20 minutes, is enough to activate venous return and oxygenate the brain. Ideally, walk after meals, especially in the morning, to help digestion and reduce the concentration of acid in the stomach. The heart appreciates when the body moves. It understands that it is not alone in the task of making the blood circulate. The fifth step is to respect sleep. Deep rest is the only time when the body really cleans the blood. During sleep, the liver filters toxins, the kidneys balance electrolytes, and the lymphatic system drains cellular waste. Sleeping poorly, waking up several times, or lying down right after eating prevents this process and leaves the blood thicker the next morning. That's why those who sleep little wake up with a heavy head, a stiff body, and an accelerated heart. Classic symptoms of dense blood. The sixth step is to gradually decrease the dependence on milk. Milk does not need to be eliminated, but it must be repositioned. With aging, the body produces less lactase, the enzyme that breaks down lactose. Undigested milk ferments generates acidity and hinders the absorption of essential minerals. Replacing it with light vegetable versions, such as oat, almond, or coconut milk, is a safe way to maintain calcium and reduce the inflammatory load. The seventh step is to listen to the body. No doctor, no matter how studied, can feel what you feel. If breakfast makes you tired, if the stomach burns, if the heart accelerates, these are clinical data that deserve attention. The body always warns before getting sick, and the sooner you listen, the less the heart needs to scream. And the last step is to introduce conscious pauses. Before eating, breathe. The simple act of breathing deeply 3 times before taking the food to the mouth activates the parasympathetic nervous system, reduces stomach acid, and improves digestion. The blood flows better when the body is calm. Stress, by itself, is one of the greatest blood thickeners that exist, and the hurried breakfast, full of noise and anxiety, is one of the greatest silent villains of cardiovascular health. Reversing thick blood is, therefore, a process of slowing down, of giving back to the body the right to start the day in its time. When you hydrate, feed yourself in the right order, and respect the morning calm, the blood returns to be the light and pulsating river it always was. The heart relaxes, the mind clears, and the body rediscovers its natural compass. In the next few minutes, I will show you how to transform these steps into a real routine, a simple daily protocol that anyone over 60 can follow. A method that stabilizes pressure, improves digestion, and keeps the blood flowing as it should. It's not a miracle. It's physiology, applied with awareness and consistency. The secret to keeping the blood light, the heart calm, and the body in balance is not in miraculous remedies or restrictive diets. It is in the order of things. The human body is governed by rhythms: the rhythm of breathing, the rhythm of sleep, the rhythm of digestion. When we respect these rhythms, The blood flows, the heart works in peace, and life prolongs naturally. The protocol that I will present to you is the result of years of clinical observation. Simple, accessible, and effective, especially for those who have passed 60 and feel that the body needs a new compass. Right upon waking up, awaken the body with water, not with coffee. Before any sip of milk or juice, drink 2 glasses of water at room temperature. If you want to enhance the effect, add a few drops of lemon and a pinch of natural sea salt. This hydrates the blood, replenishes electrolytes, and awakens the kidneys and liver gently. It's as if the body opened the floodgates of a river after a night of calm. This simple attitude reduces the risk of morning high blood pressure and improves cerebral oxygenation. After 10 to 15 minutes, feed yourself in a neutral and protective way. The first food of the day should be light, solid, and natural. Prefer options such as oatmeal, mashed banana, whole wheat bread with extra virgin olive oil, or a spoonful of natural honey. These foods stabilize the pH of the stomach and create a natural barrier that prevents milk and the acidity of fruits from clashing inside the body. It is the foundation of the day. Without it, any subsequent food becomes an unnecessary chemical test for the organism. The moment of milk, only after the body is prepared. If you like milk, keep it, but with time and purpose. Wait at least 30 minutes after the first solid food before consuming milk or derivatives. This ensures that the stomach has active enzymes and mucous membranes to receive the casein without premature coagulation. And prefer lighter versions, skim milk, lactose-free, or of vegetable origin, oat, almonds, coconut. Digestion will be faster and the blood will not thicken in the following hours. The moment of fruit, separated from milk, with awareness. Fruits are essential, but they should be consumed alone or with compatible foods. Orange, for example, is perfect in the morning, as long as it is not mixed with milk, yogurt, or cheeses. Drink the natural juice 20 to 30 minutes before any protein-rich food, or if you prefer, in the middle of the morning between meals. Thus, it fulfills its role of stimulating digestion and providing vitamin C, without generating the coagulation of proteins in the stomach. Throughout the morning, move the body. The blood needs movement to remain fluid. Walking for 10 to 15 minutes after breakfast activates venous return and reduces the risk of microclot formation. If you prefer, stretch, climb some steps, or simply walk inside the house. Light movement is the best natural anticoagulant that exists. And for those who already feel tiredness or pain in the legs, this simple habit is capable of restoring lightness to circulation in a few weeks. At lunch, the balance between acid and alkaline, assemble the plate with colors and contrasts. Vegetables and greens, alkaline, to balance the proteins and carbohydrates, acid. Avoid drinks during the meal. They dilute the digestive acids and make it difficult to break down the food. Drink only 15 minutes before or 40 minutes after. This reduces intestinal fermentation, improves absorption, and keeps the blood cleaner and more fluid. In the afternoon, keep the blood alive with constant hydration. Always carry a bottle of water. Ideally, drink small sips every 30 minutes, enough to keep the body irrigated without overloading the kidneys. Avoid teas with caffeine and soft drinks, which steal water from the blood. Prefer light teas, such as lemongrass, fennel, and mint. They purify, calm, and help to clean the excess citric acid from the body. At night, the rest of the heart. Have a light dinner. Vegetable soups, broths, and small portions of protein are more than enough. Avoid milk before sleeping. It slows down digestion and can raise nocturnal cortisol, impairing deep sleep. Before lying down, drink a small glass of warm water with lemon. This combination stimulates the liver to clean the blood during the early morning. One of the secrets of patients who wake up with energy and without high blood pressure. Once a week, the day of silent cleaning. Choose a day to reduce the consumption of dairy products and simple sugars. Feed yourself with light fruits, grains, and cooked vegetables. It is the metabolic reset. The body needs this respite to eliminate accumulated salts and waste. Patients who follow this day of lightness report significant improvement in circulation and an impressive feeling of mental clarity. The final secret: routine, not rigidity. The protocol only works if it is sustainable. It is not about cutting everything, but about reordering what you already do. If the routine becomes a burden, the stress cancels the benefits. Do it with lightness, with pleasure, and with purpose. Health does not come from perfection. It comes from consistency. Following this simple protocol, the blood returns to run as it should, light, oxygenated, and full of life. The heart stops fighting against the density and returns to just pulse. And the body, silently, rewards you with energy, lucidity, and vitality. In the next few minutes, I will show you how to transform this routine into a permanent habit, a kind of daily pact with your own heart. It is the most important step, the moment when the change ceases to be a recommendation and becomes part of who you are. The daily pact with the heart, how to keep the blood light forever. Every body that returns to flow feels a kind of new silence inside, a silence that is not absence of sound, but presence of harmony. When the blood returns to be light, the heart works in peace, and this peace is reflected in each breath, in each step, in each morning. But for this transformation to be lasting, it is necessary that it ceases to be a treatment and becomes